Ladies, gentlemen, esteemed guests, and fellow advocates of education, it is with great pleasure that I stand before you to discuss a topic of immense significance: children's literature, a powerful resource for a fulfilling future. In the pages of well-crafted stories, we find not just words, but the seeds of imagination, empathy, and wisdom that shape the minds of our young generation. Children's literature is more than mere tales. It is a gateway to a world where dreams take flight, lessons are learned, and the foundation for a promising future is laid. On our panel, we have Kumud Verma, an educationist par excellence, who has not only crafted best-selling and award-winning books, but who has also left an indelible mark on the landscape of education and poetry. Her dedication to shaping young minds is evident through her vast experience in school management and years spent imparting knowledge. She has played a pivotal role in championing education and empowerment. Next, we have Kanishka Ajwani, a dedicated class 11th humanities student at Zydus School for Excellence. Kanishka stands at the crossroads of adolescence, armed not only with academic vigor, but also with a fervent love for the written word. Kanishka's journey as a literary enthusiast is woven into the very fabric of her being. From the corridors of her school to the pages of the countless books she has read, she has embraced the world of words with unwavering enthusiasm. Next, on the panel, we have Smita Dhruv, a name resonating in the realms of storytelling. She has woven tales that not only captivate the young minds, but also shed light on the unsung heroes of our nation's struggle for independence. Her repertoire includes numerous children's stories featured in Divya Bhaskar and Champak, showcasing her ability to infuse imagination and wisdom into the hearts of the youngest readers. Notably, her book, Roller Coaster School, has earned the accolades of the Gujarat Sahitya Academy, attesting to the profound impact of her storytelling prowess. Next, we have Tanya Majmudar, an accomplished author and the co-founder of Kalpvriksh. Her journey in shaping the children's publications program at Kalpvriksh had resulted in the creation of numerous award-winning books that delve into the realms of environment, communities, and wildlife. Moreover, her role in developing localized educational material for diverse regions in India highlights her commitment to making knowledge accessible for all. Last, but certainly not the least, we have our moderator for this session today, Priya Narayan, who is an accomplished interior architect, an award-winning children's author based in Ahmedabad. Her contributions extend beyond the confines of her traditional education, as she not only teaches at her alma mater CEPT University, but also enriches young minds through the enchanting world of children's literature. From her Neve Book Awarding piece, Srinivas Ramanujan, Friend of Numbers, to her recent exploration of Hindu mythology in Demons and Demonesses, her literary endeavors have garnered recognition and sparking curiosity and instilling a love for learning among the young readers.
Hello, everybody. I think we have a pretty thin audience right now because everyone's just gone for lunch, but we are pressed for time and we have to continue with the show. So hopefully more will join as soon as they're done with lunch. But for all of you out here who have kind of taken out your time on a Saturday afternoon, at a time when after lunch also people kind of want to go and have a nice afternoon siesta, thank you for being here. Today I'm going to moderate this session. We have a lovely, panel here, and you can see that it spans almost 3 generations of readers and writers. And before we start, I wanted to kind of thank Umashankar ji for this opportunity to moderate on a topic which is very close to my heart, which is children's literature. I started my journey with children's writing in 2013 when my first book was published, and it's 2023 now, so 10 years in which I've learned a lot, and I've gone only more passionate about this particular field. And I also want to kind of touch upon a little bit of, why children's literature is important, why is it important to discuss about children's literature today. We will do that in the course of this discussion. So I would like to start with, a simple question about how what kind of books we've all kind of read and grown up with right from our childhood when we were children, and how that has impacted our lives, our life journeys. So Kumudji, I'd like to start with you.
Good afternoon. Am I audible? Thank you. मेरी जो फैमिली है वो माइग्रेंट है पाकिस्तान से 1947 में, एंड यू आर लुकिंग एट माय एज, तो लेट 70s में हम लोगों को कोई ज़्यादा लिटरेचर का एक्सपोजर नहीं मिला. स्कूल में जो कोर्स बुक थी उस पे एम्फेसिस दिया जाता था, लेकिन जैसे जैसे हम बड़े हुए तो थोड़ा सा इंटरेस्ट हमारा दूसरी बुक्स में भी जाने लगा. उस समय एक मिनट, गुजरात से बाहर से कौन से लोग हैं जो गुजरात में आके सेटल हुए हैं? ओके. उस समय राजन इकबाल, इफ़ यू रिमेंबर, हिंदी में एक जासूसी सीरीज़ शुरू हुई थी, और एक बच्चे की तरह करीब 12 साल की उम्र में मेरा भी इंटरेस्ट उसमें गया, क्योंकि वो जासूसी उपन्यास था. उसने हमारी बौद्धिक क्षमता, सोचने का तरीका, चीज़ों को ऑब्ज़र्व करना, और क्या कहते हैं, छोटे छोटे जासूस हम भी बनना चाहते थे, तो घर में कुछ कह नहीं सकते थे, पढ़ते थे, और उसने हमारे इंट्रोस्पेक्शन को भी डेवलप कर दिया, जिससे धीरे धीरे हमारा इंटरेस्ट पोइट्री में भी आने लगा, और अब पोइट्री भी समझ आने लगी, और उसके बाद मैंने पोइट्री लिखना शुरू किया. मेरे बचपन से इतना ही.
ग्रेट. स्मिता जी.
Thank you, Priya, and thank you everyone for listening to attending and being here. हाँ जी, earliest memory of childhood, the happiest one, where I used to, being just introvert, vacation आता है and just sit with the books, read all the time, and my parents were all, naturally we always indebted to them, but particularly in this case, so we had 200 plus books, and Jivram Joshi, there was a Sastu Sahitya, every now and then they used to come up with thin books, you know, तो वो पढ़ते रहते हैं, and then you can't expect कि हर नई बुक आए, so next vacation repeat all the books. एंड इंटरेस्टिंगली बकोर पटेल इज़ अ कैरेक्टर, जो गुजराती हैं वो समझ जाएंगे, बचपन में पढ़ी होगी, हरिप्रसाद व्यास जी. ही रोट अ सीरीज एंड दैट इज़ सच अ यूनिक थिंग दैट अ गोट लिव्स अ लाइफ ऑफ अ ह्यूमन, और पूरा लाइफ स्टाइल उसकी ऐसी रहती है. सो नाउ कमिंग टू थिंक ऑफ इट, जो मैंने रोलर कोस्टर स्कूल लिखी, एंड दैट आई विल कम टू इट लेटर, दैट हाउ आई टॉक टू माई डॉटर अबाउट इट. So वो भी backdrop में वही है, where a cat becomes mom and then she runs the school. And also Kanyailal Munji, as I grew up in my teenage, he is father of historical fiction. So that helped me get the idea of writing historical fiction about Kakori, the unsung heroes of Indian freedom struggle.
Same question? Okay. So I think, I mean, I come from a family where my father was an avid reader, and my mother also, like her side of the family was also into literature. So I had lots of books around me, and I have several memories. I think the earliest memories are not of reading, but of being read to. My father used to read bedtime stories, like fairy tales and all, every day. And my mother and my Masi used to read out Gujarati stories to me. So I think that created an interest in stories, and then I automatically kind of graduated to reading on my own. So, and how it has shaped, I think so when I was in school, for example, I was so interested in reading. We had this library where I would go and borrow, and I remember that the librarian said that you have to read one book in 3 days, and I finished it in a day, and she would refuse to take it back. I would take it to my school and put it, you know, in between my textbooks to read in class. So those are some very strong memories, I think, and that's reading shapes your. I think it encourages your imagination and broadens your horizons in so many ways. So, yeah.
Kanishka, the same question to you. but you are the most important person on this panel for me because you are the reader, right? And you have gone through a journey of being a child and now you are a young adult, right? And that entire gamut of years that you've kind of read. I would like you to talk a little bit about the kind of, what journey you've had as a reader.
So when I was posed with this question, I went to my mother and I was like, Mom, when did I start reading? Because, I couldn't think of it. But she told me that I started reading when I was 4 to 5 years, and she would, trace the words with me, and books like The Ugly Duckling or The Sleeping Beauty and such fairy tales. But my first core memory of reading goes back to 2nd grade. So it was my birthday, and my Masi had gifted me this huge set of books, and I was sort of pissed off at her कि books कौन देता है birthday पे. And but there was this one book I found really peculiar, and that was this biography of J.K. Rowling. So, and it was an illustrated version, a 100-page book. And I was even more pissed off at the book because I do not like non-fiction. So, but then I scrolled through the pages and I completed it in a day. And I was absolutely mesmerized by the way she had, and Harry Potter series has been my favorite since like a long time. So I was mesmerized by how this young girl who was a lot like me had created this own fantasy magical world to fit in and, create an identity for herself. And in the process, she also became a billionaire. So that was the cherry on top. But so that and books, Ruskin Bond books like The Blue Umbrella and Sudha Murthy's Grandma's Bag of Stories. So those are my earliest memories of reading. And for me, reading has had a monumental effect on my life because I can say this with pride that, I have changed schools, I have changed friends. I myself have changed a lot as a person, but there's this one thing that has remained constant for me, and that is books and their loyalty to me and my loyalty to them. So it has shaped my personality, and I am the kind of person who does not shudder from standing up for herself, but I am that person today because of the books I've read, because they have shaped my personality in that way.
Great. That's a lovely, I think, observation that, the loyalty that you have to books and books have to you. It's a lovely way of looking at things. When I was looking at children's literature at large, the need for, children to read, it was also something which I realized that right from when you are a 3-year-old, when you can start, kind of understanding shapes, figures, maybe identify little words, correlate them, understand the world around you, right from then to being an 18-year-old. So, when you're a young adult and you can read much more complex books. So it's a whole gamut of, whole spectrum there of, what can be written for children and what should or should not be written for children. So the next question, Kumud, again, I'll start with you, is through the years, through your growing up years and the way the world is right now, have you seen a change in the kind of themes that are addressed in children's books or in children's stories? Like if I look at the West, there is a very specific kind of way that themes are addressed in the West, in books. In India, in either regional literature, Hindi literature, or even in English, if you could tell me, what is the change that you have seen?
See, I have noticed the change during the past 4 decades, which is quite a huge time. आपको अगर याद होगा जिन्होंने हिंदी पढ़ी है, जस्ट हिंदी का एग्जाम्पल उठा रही हूँ. एक कौवा प्यासा था, घड़े में पानी कम था, इधर उधर घूमा, पानी ना मिल पाया, उसने ढूंढा कंकर एंड सो ऑन. फिर मॉरल ऑफ द स्टोरी आ जाता है कि जो भी आजकल ये स्टोरीज़ बच्चों को एक्सेप्टेबल नहीं हैं. आज स्टोरीज़ लिखने का तरीका बदल गया है और बच्चों के साहित्य पे वर्कशॉप्स होती हैं, बच्चों के साथ रहा जाता है और उनसे सीख कर उनकी ज़रूरत के हिसाब से आजकल कहानियाँ और बाकी चीज़ें बनाई जाती हैं. लेकिन बड़े होने के कारण मैंने ये भी देखा है कि जो हम उनको सिखाना चाहते हैं हम किसी न किसी तरीके से उस कहानी में डाल ही देते हैं। बेस्ट ये होता है कि आपकी कहानी जो है वो प्योर हो और बच्चा उससे एक्सट्रैक्ट करे जो उसे सिखाया जाना चाह रहे हैं आप, इंस्टेड ऑफ आप उसको फीड करें। आप उसके भावों को जगाएं, उनको सेंसिटिव बनाएं, उसको अच्छा ह्यूमन बीइंग बनाएं, वो इम्पॉर्टेंट है, इंस्टेड कि आप मॉरल उसको फीड कर दें। दूसरी चीज़ ये हो गई कि जब हम चिल्ड्रन लिटरेचर लिख रहे हैं, जो चिल्ड्रन ऑथर हैं, ये उनकी बात हो गई। आज हमारे पास ऐसे ऑथर भी हैं जो चिल्ड्रन हैं, नेचुरली वो बच्चों के लिए लिखेंगे, बच्चों के लेवल का ही लिखेंगे। और मेरे पास बुक्स आती रहती हैं, मैं गो थ्रू करती हूँ। उनकी जो कहानियों में, कविताओं में जो सिंपलिसिटी है वो एक एडल्ट चिल्ड्रन ऑथर की किताबों में नहीं मिलती। और मैंने उससे बहुत सीखा है कि जब आप बच्चे के लिए लिख रहे हैं तो आप स्वयं बच्चा बन जाएं, तब जब आप बच्चे को देना चाह रहे हैं वो जल्दी कैच करेगा। एक स्टोरी है छोटी सी, मैं छोटी करके सुना रही हूँ, स्टोरी बड़ी है। टिन्नी की पिक्सी। पालतू पशुओं से सबको प्यार होता है। टिन्नी भी घर में ज़िद करने लगी कि हम मेरे लिए एक छोटा सा कुत्ता ले आइए। पिताजी के कहने पर एक कुत्तों का रखवाला वाइट लैब्राडोर घर पर लेके आया। वो फीमेल थी, उसका नाम पिक्सी डिसाइड कर लिया गया। उसके लिए भी घर में बहुत आर्ग्यूमेंट हुआ। घर पे सबके नाम KSSP पे थे, तो वोटिंग हुई, नाम पी पे दिया गया, पिक्सी। टिन्नी बहुत खुश हुई। जैसे ही रखवाला घर पर आया, माँ घर पे थी। पिक्सी बहुत छोटी थी और वो चल भी नहीं पा रही थी, अपनी टांगों पे ठीक से खड़े भी नहीं हो पा रही थी और वह फर्श पे क्रॉल कर रही थी। माँ से देखा ना गया उसका दर्द। माँ ने पूछा, ये कितने दिन की है? वो जो रखवाला था वो एकदम से सहम गया कि ये 27 दिन की है। माँ ने उसको डांटा, तुम इसको घर पर कैसे ले आए? ये इतना छोटा कुत्ता हम संभालेंगे कैसे? रखवाले ने बोला कि इसकी माँ के पास 5 बच्चे हैं, वो इसका ध्यान नहीं रख पा रहे। हमने सोचा आपका परिवार बहुत अच्छा है तो पिक्सी की देखभाल यहाँ अच्छी होगी। माँ थोड़ी नर्म पड़ी, उन्होंने पिक्सी को स्वीकार कर लिया। पिक्सी धीरे धीरे घर में घुलने मिलने लगी और उसको 4 महीने तक बाहर न घुमाने की सख्त हिदायत थी। तो घर में जो भी बाहर निकलता पिक्सी को गोदी में लेकर बाहर चल पड़ता। पिक्सी 2 महीने की होने आई थी। माँ ने उसके लिए बच्चों से गले के पट्टे पसंद कराए, उसके लिए हिदायतें दी और माँ ने बोला आगे से इसके घूमने के टाइम पे एक अनुशासन लगाइए। इसकी आदत अभी से बिगड़ गई तो हम सबको आगे मुश्किल होगी। यहाँ मैं स्टोरी को थोड़ा कट शॉर्ट करती हूँ और स्टोरी क्योंकि काफ़ी लंबी है। तो पिक्सी धीरे धीरे 6 साल की हो गई। एक दिन उसके जन्मदिन के उपहार के रूप में पापा पिक्सी को स्विमिंग के लिए क्लब में ले गए, डॉग्स क्लब में। पिक्सी पापा के पास खड़ी थी तो पीछे से एक ग्रेडन ब्रीड का कुत्ता आया और उसने पिक्सी को नोच डाला। पिक्सी की आँख के पास उसके दांत गड़े हुए थे। पापा एकदम से घबरा गए। फिर उसको स्विमर ने बोला, ज़्यादा चोट नहीं लगी है, इसको स्विमिंग कराइए, इसको अच्छा लगेगा। जैसे ही उसको पूल में उतारा गया, सारा पूल ब्लड से रेड हो गया। पिक्सी को तुरंत बाहर निकाल लिया गया और डॉक्टर के पास ले गए। जब तक पापा उसको घर लेकर आए, पिक्सी का पूरा गाल सूज चुका था, वो ठीक से चल नहीं पा रही थी। उसको देखते ही माँ शॉक में आ गई और टिन्नी घबरा गई कि ये क्या हुआ। पापा ने सारी कहानी बताई। उस क्लब में जाने के लिए सबकी मनाही हो गई और पिक्सी को जो घाव थे उसको भरने में तो केवल 7 दिन लगे, लेकिन जो घाव टिन्नी और माँ के दिल पर पड़े थे वो अभी तक शायद भर नहीं पाए हैं। दैट्स ऑल फ्रॉम माई साइड। थैंक यू।
Very touching story, कुमुद जी. और बच्चों के दिल में कितनी असर होती है, so well depicted. हाँ जी, like how over years the themes have changed. तो I feel कि वो होना ही था, क्योंकि there are two reasons which are affecting. One is that world has become a smaller place as the times have changed, and people know about stories from all over the world. Children's story, Russian stories होते हैं, और कहीं पे भी USA में तो है ही है. They have so many huge libraries for children, and even from different states that we interact, we come to know. And also जो हमारा social system है, structure बदल रहा है, because always it reflects on in the story. जैसे पहले बच्चों की story में एक village की कहानी आती थी, and how कुएं में से पानी भरा जाता था, and eventually अभी now working mother की कहानी आती है, travel की कहानी आती है. And I remember because as my age, I've seen that पहले cartoons जो होते थे, I was lucky that in मुंबई की college में, Xavier's में, they used to have in library Mad and Asterix and all. तो पढ़ने के बहाने could read all those, but that time वो तो एक अलभ्य वस्तु थी. And now it is so easily available over years, maybe 30 years back, cartoons, book, comics were easily available. Eventually now that social media has taken over, children have a plethora of animated movies or songs, stories. So I think they're very lucky and exposed to the world at large.
So you talked about social media, and you're saying that they're lucky. That is something I think we all need to also kind of think about, that how it is kind of impacting the time that children are spending on social media compared to, reading itself. I think that's a, topic for a whole different discussion. But it's interesting that, it's important that you've brought that out. Tanya, you're, because you're an editor also of a publishing house, and, the kind of stories that you publish, how have you seen, what kind of themes are becoming more relevant today, and how do you choose, which stories to publish and which not to?
So when I was a child, the only sort of English books available through Indian publications were these Panchatantra stories and mythological stories, and stories with morals as such. And I think now the themes have changed a great deal. Like even in picture books for younger kids, you see themes of nature, of dealing with your emotions, of diversity, and then for slightly older kids, there are themes, like mature themes like gender and sexuality, and these are there in children's books now, disabilities, inclusion. So it's great that all of this is happening in Indian literature. At Kalpavriksha is an environment organization since the last 40-50 years. And recently, we've started publishing books for children on the environment. So we publish, like for younger kids, again, nature, like natural history information, wildlife stories. And for older kids, books on conservation issues, climate, things like that. How we choose what to publish and what not to publish, the basic theme, I mean, it's very simple. What is engaging for children? That is what we want to publish. So,
like Smita ji just, Kumud ji just talked about, you have to become a child to kind of write for a child, right? So when you're looking at, books that you want to publish, do you also kind of have any children readers who kind of read them and kind of say that, yeah, these are the kinds that interest us, or is it just an intuitive decision that you take?
So some of them are intuitive, as you said, but for many stories, once we get the manuscript and we've been through the editing process, we send it out for field testing to certain schools where we know the teachers, or certain children whom we know, to get their feedback, and then we incorporate them that in the edition.
Great. So, yeah. Okay. So coming back to you, Kanishka, your, of course, you might not have kind of experienced life so much to, kind of see the different themes. But maybe you can talk about what kind of themes interest you. And do you feel that today in the market there are enough books that cater to, all kinds of themes that children of your age might be interested in? Or there are, like I said already, in the West, a lot of, different types of, themes are touched upon. A lot of books come out. In India, not so much. So do you think there are enough books to satisfy that, want for you here?
Yeah, so I certainly think that themes for children books have become a lot more inclusive in terms of incorporating diversity and talking about issues that maybe 10 years earlier were a taboo. And the West has certainly done maybe a better job at because, if you ask me, 90% of the books that I've read are from American or maybe British authors.
Right.
So that is a testimony to that fact.
Right.
But I think that we are going towards that, and we will achieve it, because even today when I talk to people, those topics that were considered as a taboo earlier or maybe were controversial earlier are not so much anymore.
Right.
Probably because of social media, like
Right.
ma'am said.
Right.
But because we as a generation have become more accepting towards the differences in our community.
That's really lovely. That's great to know that the new generation is, more tolerant than what we were all, at our times. I would also like to ask you, Kanishka, that you are, an avid reader. Do you also have a lot of friends who read, or are you an exception? Because like we talked about, social media has kind of taken away readers, it's kind of sucked away all the readers, and they're more into visual, they want to see everything visually. So do you have a gang that reads?
Yeah, so actually the friend group that I've made in my new school was because of my love for reading. So we bonded over books, and now, whenever one of us read a book, we would one of us would buy a book, and then we'd just circulate it amongst all of us. So all of us don't have to spend money on it. But then again, social media, so nowadays there's this thing called book talk and bookstagram. So where people, it's basically book review pages where they talk about whatever is the new release book. So I have seen a lot of kids, a lot of my classmates get influenced by them and then start reading.
That's lovely.
Yeah,
That's lovely.
in order to, maybe fit in, because everybody is doing it. But then that has also helped them gain an interest in reading.
Okay, that's lovely. Okay, so the next question I want to ask, Kanishka, I will start with you this time and I'll go the other way around. That when you were a kid, your earliest memory, so who used to buy, who used to decide what kind of books will you read? Because when you, today, if you look at parents in general, they have a lot of say in, बच्चे क्या पढ़ना चाहिए, बच्चों को कैसी किताबें खरीदनी चाहिए, this is not appropriate, there's a lot of censoring going on at the parent level itself, right? So did you experience any of that when growing up? And are your parents readers?
Not really. I'm the first in the family to have an interest.
Congrats. That's really good. I hope your future generations keep up this. But it's really amazing that you have taken up a passion for reading, although your parents didn't. So did they have a say in what kind of books you read?
So actually, I started reading, like I said, when that was my earliest memory of reading, receiving a box full of books. But after that, I myself talked to people, and I, discovered that this is the new book that people in my class are reading. So I used to tell my mother. So my mother has actually played a pivotal role in this, because she was the one who would take me to bookstores, and we had a specific time that, you can't go to a bookstore in less than 2 months, because I would spend a lot of time and money in the bookstore. So, but yes, so I wouldn't say she has had a lot of role in choosing the books I read, because I was also very picky about that, because कि मुझे ये पढ़नी है तो पढ़नी ही है. Because when I talked to people and heard what the story was, but she would keep a check on what I read.
Okay,
yeah.
Great. Okay, I think we are running out of time, so quick one question that I would like to ask, the rest of the three of you, because you're also parents and, you have had children, you being avid readers yourself and having turned into writers, this entire journey. So how have you kind of taken care that your children also read? Was it a challenge to get them to read? And what was your journey as a parent influencing or raising readers? So, Smita ji.
Yeah, so I would say that every parent would be very aware to do their best for the child, and when daughters were there, it was not a conscious decision that they'll go further, become lawyers and in Ivy League colleges and do so well. But the family background was such that their Dadaji, my father-in-law, was a very avid reader. So because he was retired and he was go to all the libraries he was member. So every week he'll go and collect. So both the daughters got exposure to reading that. And above that, the younger one, Kaylee, she a bedtime story person. So I used to tell her stories, and that's how also, I think as cat mom, I would become cat mom. But she would not restrict herself to the cat baby. And she would be, sometimes I'm a rabbit, sometimes I'm a monkey. That's how also that gave birth. I mean, my book came along, but their creativity, maybe that helped. And secondly, maybe ancestors' blessing, because they have been very prominent lawyers, so they maybe took inspiration from them. And the school, actually, this would also some point worth considering, but as if time permits, that they studied in Gujarati medium school, CN Vidyalaya, which is a Gandhian school. So the basic life values were so powerful that they naturally switched over to learning law and doing something for the society, country, and people at large.
So my daughter is only 4, so she's not an independent reader yet, but she loves books. I think for her, it's the fact that when I'm reading to her, I make it a point that I'm, not also talking to somebody or checking my phone. It's that dedicated one-on-one time with her, and she loves that. And so she is interested in watching TV and the mobile phone, but she's equally interested in reading books. And I see her interest in how she follows the story, how she asks questions about the characters, and she's already applying, what are called as reading strategies in the education world, that you make connections with the character, you make connections with your past experiences. So I already see that happening. And I think that's my message to all parents, that if you spend time with kids, they will start reading, and also to model that behavior, right? Like children learn what they see, not what you tell them.
Yes.
So if you are reading, then they will automatically want to read. Yeah.
Yes. And I think it's also very important, like, Smita ji, aapne bhi bataya, कि when the kids are young, to spend time with them. Right now we're all very busy parents, and we kind of don't take out that time to sit with them and read with them, tell them bedtime stories. And that, I think, is something which we are depriving our children of, in some way. And then when they start getting interested in stories, I remember growing up listening to stories by my grandfather, and that's how that, listening started first, and then it translated into reading, and over many years it translated into writing. I think that journey is, very important. And I think at this point I'd also like to say that Smita ji's daughters, whom she's raised as lovely readers, have also launched their book yesterday, which is Law Tones, and they've also written for children, which I'm so happy about, right? Kumud ji, आपका इसमें, what आपके बच्चों के साथ, how was your journey, raising them as readers?
एक्चुअली इस पे तो पूरी बुक है जो कल ही रिलीज़ हुई है कि बच्चों को सफल कैसे बनाएं. एनीवे आई विल टेल यू अ पार्ट ऑफ दैट, कि उस बुक का पार्ट नहीं है, इनके क्वेश्चन के आंसर का पार्ट है वो, कि मेरे बच्चों को लाइब्रेरीज एक्सेसिबल थी हर जगह, जिस जगह पर वो रहे हैं वहाँ भी और स्कूल में भी, और वो बुक्स के बहुत शौकीन रहे हैं, लेकिन वो क्या पढ़ रहे हैं उस पर एक आई रखना हमेशा ज़रूरी हुआ है. मेरे घर में 4 लोग हैं जो 4 डायरेक्शंस में जाते हैं, 4 तरह की बुक पढ़ते हैं, फिर आपस में डिस्कस करके डिसाइड करते हैं कि दूसरे को वो बुक पढ़नी चाहिए कि नहीं. तो दैट्स हाउ वी हैव अ कलेक्शन एट होम. पूरी लाइब्रेरी घर में है, शायद 1000 बुक्स होंगी अभी. और आपको एक इंसिडेंट बताती हूँ. मेरी बेटी जब 10th में थी तो उस समय इंडिया में नार्निया मूवी काफ़ी पॉपुलर हुई थी, इफ़ यू हैव सीन. तो हम लोग कमरा बंद करके ना सारे वो मूवी देख रहे थे घर में, पॉपकॉर्न खा रहे थे और कोल्ड ड्रिंक पी रहे थे. एंड माय हस्बैंड कम्स होम, क्योंकि वॉक का टाइम हो गया था. ही क्वेश्चंस, तुम सारे ये अंधेरे में बैठ के क्या टीवी में आंखें गड़ा के बैठे हो? हमने कहा हम नार्निया देख रहे हैं. नेचुरली ही हैड टू गो टू अदर रूम. नार्निया देखी गई, फिर डिसाइड हुआ कि नार्निया की बुक लाई जाए. फिर नार्निया पढ़ी गई, फिर उसका पार्ट 2 भी सेम हुआ. बाय चांस 4 महीने बाद मेरी बेटी का बोर्ड का एग्ज़ाम था. एंड यू नो ICSE जो है वो सिलेबस के बाहर के क्वेश्चन पूछता है. उसमें नार्निया पर ऐसे था. एंड यू नो देन ही हैड इट. That's all I remember. Thank you.
That's really nice. Okay, so I think it's time to wrap up. Unfortunately, we're running short of time. So I'll just quickly wrap up for the audience. I had intended to have a quick Q&A also. Unfortunately, that's not possible. But I'd just like to wrap up saying that children's literature जो है, like we already talked about in the beginning, that it ranges, there's a whole spectrum of 3 years to 18 years के लिए कितनी books लिखी जाती हैं. In the West, the publishing for children is very mature industry. There are lots of books being written, lots of publishers, they are interested in publishing for children. In India, abhi it's taking baby steps, so you can really count on the fingers of 2 hands the number of English children publishers. You can count in the fingers of 1 hand Hindi publishers who publish for children, and regional publishers के लिए एक या 2 each region में आपको मुश्किल से मिलेंगी. So this is another topic for discussion. I think maybe next festival, maybe if Umashankar ji allows me the pleasure, I could talk about why it is important to write for children in their regional languages, in their mother tongue, and how we can take that forward, and inculcate the reading habit in children right from when they are little children, and then how can they become readers and maybe writers and whatever accomplishments they can do later on in the future. With that hope, we'll take... You do? Okay. There is time for questions? Okay. So if anybody has any question for any of the panelists, yeah, please. Okay. I think then we'll just wrap up in that case. Yeah? Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, our dear speakers and moderator. That was an amazing session. Now we'll present you with the mementos.
Hello, welcome to the AILF, the 8th edition of the Literature and Human Development. Here we debate, we discuss and we deconstruct. So I want to ask SK Nanda sir, how has your experience been at AILF?
Over the years, the AILF I think, has been preparing literature as a weapon or as an ammunition in the minds of the people to reflect, to precipitate, and also to prepare and interpret things which normally are written in the books, drama, exhibitions, but they were very lazy to read or write a book or to interpret a book. So that laziness is broken. And people are now ready to read, write, interpret, debate, question. So that thinking process has started, and that is better for the society, because particularly the youth and the children, if they start doing it, that will be igniting the minds through this ammunition. Okay.
All right, thank you so much sir. जी, अब हम AILF में हैं और मुझे कुमुद वर्मा जी को पूछना है कि उनका एक्सपीरियंस कैसा रहा है AILF में. मैम, आप कुछ वर्ड्स बता सकते हैं, आपका एक्सपीरियंस कैसा रहा है?
जी, आई थिंक यहाँ जो भी लोग आते हैं, मैं उन लोगों में से हूँ जो बहुत पहले से AILF के साथ जुड़े हैं. 2017 में मेरी पुस्तक हम तो बच्चे हैं इसी मंच पर रिलीज़ हुई थी, उसको बहुत अच्छा रिस्पांस मिला. उसके बाद मैंने कभी भी AILF के इस कार्यक्रम में आना बंद नहीं किया. यहाँ पर आने के बाद मुझे दूसरे ऑथर्स को सुनने का, ऑडियंस से बात करने का, और सबसे ज़्यादा जो बच्चे मिलते हैं और बहुत प्यार से आते हैं, जिन्होंने अलग अलग पुस्तकें पढ़ी हुई होती हैं, ऑथर्स से मिलते हैं, बात करते हैं, उसमें बड़ा आनंद आता है. अब सब लालची होते हैं, अपना कुछ ना कुछ फ़ायदा ढूंढते हैं. मुझे ये फ़ायदा है कि जब भी मैं यहाँ आती हूँ, मुझे ब्रेन के लिए फूड मिल जाता है. जब आप दूसरों को देखते हैं, दूसरी किताबें देखते हैं, जो आप सीखते हैं वो यहाँ आने के बाद 1 साल के लिए काफ़ी होता है. और मुझे हमेशा अगले इस कार्यक्रम का इंतज़ार रहता है. धन्यवाद.